Good evening and welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups, technology and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant coming to you live from India's startup capital, Bengaluru. We kick it off then with the top story on the show this evening, and this is about Amazon's mega offline retail push. Now remember, this was a deal in the works for quite a few weeks now, and it's finally official today. Amazon and Samara Capital together will acquire Aditya Birla Retail Limited, which controls the More supermarket chain of stores. Now, More currently is India's fourth largest supermarket chain, over 500 stores across the country, while Samara Capital will get 51%. The balance 49% will be acquired by Amazon's investment arm. Now, the enterprise value for this deal is expected to be around 4,200 crore rupees. That's what we are picking up. And it's definitely a huge push in the offline space. The other company in which Amazon has a stake in India is Shoppers Stop. But, you know, that's a very small stake compared to the stake that they have picked up in More supermarket. But it's not going to end here, because in the last few weeks there has been talk that Amazon could also be looking at Kishore Biyani's Future Group. We of course have to wait and see how this plays out. But this is pretty similar to what they've done in the US. They acquired Whole Foods last year in one of the biggest deals there. And it looks like they are sort of trying to craft an omni-channel strategy in India as well. So what does this move by Amazon mean for other e-commerce players in the country, and how will it redefine the future of retail? That's the big story we're tracking on Startup Central, and we have two special guests joining us live on the show this evening. We have Arvind Singhal from Technopack, who knows the retail space very well. We also have Rutvik Doshi from Inventus, who knows startups really well. So perhaps he can give us the e-commerce and the startup perspective on this deal. I'm going to come to you first, Arvind. How do you see this deal, Mr. Singhal? You know, a huge step by Amazon in terms of establishing an offline presence. Of course, it hasn't done this directly. It's happened through its investment arm. I'm assuming that's, you know, because of restrictions of FDI and multi-brand retail. But I think certain sections in India will still be crying foul. This deal is still pending clearance from the CCI. But how do you broadly see this deal, Mr. Singhal?
There are very many angles to this particular investment from Amazon in India. I think the first one is in a way directed to the government of India itself, that there is so much opportunity and there is so much potential to attract global investment into India in this sector. And yet, for reasons better known to the policy makers, they have completely tried to strangulate this sector through ridiculous policies. And hopefully they will now at least see that, look, just have a simple, clean policy without focusing on ownership, without focusing on who owns inventory, without focusing on what kind of a channel, whether it is online or offline. So that is the first message, which shows very clearly that India is a very attractive destination for foreign capital when it comes to the retail sector. The second thing which is very clear is that the next round of retail wars in India would actually be fought for the share of customers' wallet as far as food and grocery is concerned. Because that is the largest, probably the most complicated piece of this whole retail spending pie. Almost $300 billion is what Indians spend out of $700 billion of total merchandising spending on food and grocery alone, 300 billion. Just to put in perspective, the second largest category after food and grocery is clothing, which is about $50 billion. So this is one area we will see far more action, not only just limited to, let's say, Amazon's acquisition today in partnership with Samara of More. We will see this is one area which will get a lot of attention from Walmart and Flipkart. Reliance is already there. Future Group is a very large player in this. And very recently we have also seen a statement of intent from Swiggy, the food delivery company, to also look into food and grocery delivery as a part of their growth strategy. So a lot of action happening in this space, very good for the consumers, and I think very, very good for the food and grocery industry also.
Right, right, right. Rutvik, you want to come in here because, you know, in a sense, is this a missed opportunity for the big offline players in India? I mean, ideally, it should have been perhaps, you know, an Aditya Birla Retail acquiring a Flipkart or a Future Group acquiring a Snapdeal. But we are seeing a reversal of sorts where we are seeing, you know, e-commerce players who've managed to scale up in the last few years because of foreign capital, now picking up a stake in offline players who've been in the market for a longer time from big conglomerates. Is there a reversal that's happening here? Was this a missed opportunity for the big conglomerates, you think?
No, I agree with you. I think this is the best opportunity for the large retailers. I think in the early 2000, between 2010 to 2013 or 14, almost every large retailer in India or large retail conglomerate dismissed e-commerce. And even those who tried getting into e-commerce found it very, very hard to manage both businesses. Was going through price wars, there was discounting, and they ended up in channel conflicts. So they found it very, very hard. In the meanwhile, e-commerce became so big that it became almost impossible for the traditional retailers to catch up with a Flipkart or an Amazon or Snapdeal or any of these large e-commerce companies. So now we are seeing a reversal because these commerce companies are large, and they all realize that the future of retail is not either online or offline, but it is a blend. The same consumer is going to spend both offline and online, and each one of them wants to grab the share of the wallet as much as they can. So I don't see this as something which is different from e-commerce. It's just an extension of what these e-commerce companies want to do. And whether we like it or not, they became far larger than what traditional retail companies in India were able to grow at.
Right, right, right. Mr. Singhal, you spoke about how the Indian government has perhaps missed the boat on crafting policies for the sector. And the obvious one, of course, is, FDI and multi-brand retail. There's been a huge hue and cry about that for years, which is why perhaps we are seeing Walmart enter through the cash and carry route. They've picked up a stake in the online marketplace of Flipkart, which is where investment is allowed. And we are now seeing Amazon invest in more through its investment arm. So, it's not a direct investment. Are we going to see more such deals being structured? Because there's also talk of a Future Group attracting strategic investment from the likes of Amazon and Walmart. How is this going to play out? How effective is a ban on FDI and multi-brand retail if all these conglomerates just use their investment arms to buy into these retail chains?
So that is a whole anomaly, and in fact, Indian physical retailers have been put to a big disadvantage of not being able to access capital the way online retailers have been able to do so. It is a capital intensive business, and it's a shame that the government policy never really encouraged retailers, even of Indian origin, to attract the kind of capital which is needed for them to become very large players. So now, of course, the rules of the game have changed in terms of the investment size and scale, and therefore many more Indian retailers will probably find it more convenient either to partner with or completely sell out to some of the global giants, because the policy very clearly says that, look, if you're a retailer, you can't invest, but if you're an investor, then there is no limitation. That's the dichotomy of this policy, but that's what it is. And we will see therefore many more deals like this coming out over the next 12 to 18 months.
Mr. Singhal, what do you make of the way the market's going to play out? Reliance, of course, is going to be the dark horse. They already have a huge physical presence, whether it's electronics, whether it's grocery, whether it's fashion, which are the three biggest categories for any e-commerce player today. And now they also have a technology platform in Jio to sort of marry the two. How is this going to change the competitive landscape?
I think it will only encourage Reliance to maybe fast forward its own investment plans into the retail part of the business. Last many years, while Reliance Retail has grown, but I think bulk of the attention and the capital spending has gone on the Jio platform. Having established this platform, Reliance, I'm sure, will get very aggressive in the physical retail space as well. And they are probably the only player in India at this time who can actually play a true multi-channel and omni-channel play. Today's FDI restrictions do not allow an Amazon or a Flipkart or a Walmart to be omni-channel. They can be multi-channel, but they cannot seamlessly go to the same consumers because of the way the current policy is. Reliance is not constrained by that. So Reliance, most certainly, I expect to be a very, very significant player in the larger retail ecosystem in the country, and most certainly in the food and grocery space. I also think personally that Big Basket would be a very, very significant player, and I'm very, very intrigued by the potential of Swiggy getting into the same space, food and grocery. So we have multiple competitors in this space fighting for the same share of the household wallet, and I think these are good times for the consumers. And I just said very, very good times for companies in the food and agriculture, food and grocery space as well, including startups.
Right. Okay. On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Singhal and Rutvik. So, even as the giants battle it out, vertical commerce players figure out what to do. It's a good time to be a consumer. And what better news than that a few weeks ahead of the festive season. So, I guess you can continue to expect deep discounting across retail, e-tail, as players try to widen the market and grab a bigger share of the pie. We take you through Amazon's biggest fulfillment center in Karnataka. Now it's clearly preparing for the festive season sale. They've unveiled this recently. They're also introducing a lot of automation to handle more orders at this FC near Bengaluru. My colleague Rahul Daima caught up with Amazon India's Vice President Akhil Saxena to really find out the strategy ahead of the festive season. Listen in.
The reason why we built this fulfillment center is because we have seen a lot of demand coming in from here. We are ahead of the festive season, and every year we expand our capacity to take care of the requirements of our customers and our sellers. So we build this capacity in Karnataka. This is the largest fulfillment center, as you rightly said. This FC will allow the small and medium enterprises as well as small sellers to bring in their inventory, and that could be very unique selection ahead of the festive season. So new designs, new selection that they want to sell for the Dussehra Diwali season coming up. And we build this capacity in advance so that they have enough time to ramp up their inventory in our fulfillment center. Similarly, we have expanded our transportation network as well. So we have expanded our capacity by almost 50%, so 1.5x times the growth over the last year.
Got it. But festive season is also the time that you see a lot of buzz on the FCs. You hire a lot of temporary workers. The demand is massive. In fact, the product range that I was seeing a lot of it that's coming from sellers is a lot of festive material, Right. So talk to us about the preparations that have gone in terms of hiring temporary workers.
It's first about building the infrastructure. So this is the infrastructure that we are talking about. And then also having the right processes and people to take care of the customer orders when they start coming in. So we have already hired, you saw a lot of people that we have hired as we launched this fulfillment center, and we have also hired seasonal employees so that we can cater to the large increase in the orders that we are going to see in the next couple of days. Also, we train them a lot so that they can process the orders faster without defects and have a very high customer experience part of it. The same applies for not just the fulfillment center but also for the transportation network.
Talk to us about the automation efforts driving this, because apart from manpower you also need the right automation fix.
So if you look at this fulfillment center, we have a 350,000 square feet building, and we have almost about 1 kilometer of conveyance in this building. These are very automated, completely automated conveyor, which basically moves the inventory from different levels into the packing area and segregates based on singles, non-singles or multi orders. Now this is a physical automation part of it, which is about conveyance. There is also a lot of automation which has gone in the technology, which helps us to identify what's the best way to process the order, how do we pick the order, how do we optimize the picking. So algorithms which are there to help us automate and improve the picking time. Similarly, how do we reassemble the order once we have picked the orders. And then I showed you as we walked along that there are a lot of IT enablements which are there, right from the time that we have an automated appointment for the sellers to the QB scan process and the SLAM process, where we basically weigh the shipments before they go out so that we can generate the right shipping label.
Wow, some super visuals there of the Amazon fulfillment center. Really gives you a sense of the scale that they are preparing for ahead of the festive season, but I'm sure the story is similar when it comes to some of Flipkart's fulfillment centers in India as well. But moving away from that to another overseas expansion story. Yesterday you heard about Ola's foray into New Zealand, and today Oyo has announced that it will enter the UK. Now remember, Oyo is one of the few Indian startups that's managed to foray into China and scale up successfully there. The budget room aggregator has now said that it will enter UK in a big way. So the formal expansion into UK marks the first such foray outside Asia, and it's launched in London with about 80 rooms. They will be investing £40 million into the UK, and they will be launching in 10 cities over the next 18 months. So if you look at some of the cities that they are targeting, it includes the likes of Manchester, Birmingham and Glasgow, and they plan to hire 100 people and have 5,000 rooms by 2020. So in fact, Ritesh Agarwal, talking about the UK expansion, spoke about how it's been the topmost international travel destination for several years, and that's the reason why it presents a huge opportunity as far as Oyo rooms is concerned. Some nice imagery of the London Bridge there, so perhaps the next time you are in UK, you may not have to Airbnb, you can just go for India's own Oyo rooms, which is now expanding in UK in a big way. But on that note, completely out of time on this edition of ET Now Startup Central. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned to ET Now for more news and updates.